The Highly Sensitive Child book has been the most validating book I have ever read as a parent. I read a bunch of books. I've liked a lot of them. Specifically, I do like the How to Talk so little kids will listen. I just bought the older version of that. I really recommend that as well. However, if you think your kid seems highly sensitive, what does that mean? Okay, if you have a kiddo, and this is something that follows them forever. So if this would be helpful for you, first of all, my son's just about to be 7. It's been very obvious he was highly sensitive since he was a baby, and he will remain highly sensitive, as am I, all through adulthood. The best part about this book, and I'll tell you a little more about what I mean by highly sensitive, but the best part of this book as a parent, whether your kid is a baby and you think they're highly sensitive, or I would say even if they're like in their 20s, I would still read this because it's going to give you a perception shift for you to understand more about what your kiddo is going through, and just how they are, just what is innately them. And it's going to allow you to appreciate it more. It won't mean, I'm not going to say it's always going to be easy, because it's not. If you have a highly sensitive kid, it's not. But you know what? Raising any kid is not easy. There's just different challenges. And if you, this book does a great job of changing your perspective to understand them more and understand why they are how they are, giving you some ideas of how to mitigate that, but also just knowing like there's nothing wrong with your kid and there's nothing wrong with you if you feel like you've been trying to like protect so what happens a lot with kids that are highly sensitive, I feel like 2 things can really happen. One, the parent like really gets that they're highly sensitive, and it's probably because the parent is also highly sensitive, and they really, really understand it on a deep level, and they understand like their kid just can't handle certain situations. They get overwhelmed easily. They like something so little can set them off, like their socks are too tight, can just like totally set off a highly sensitive kid. On the other end of that, they're also like, typically these kinds of kids can have just amazing conversations with you. They're really, really deep thinkers, and they're observers. So a lot of people will label them as shy, but they're not shy. They might become shy over time, depending how they're brought up and dealt with things, but they're not shy. They're observers. And I think if you have a kid that you feel like is shy, even just changing your perception to see them as an observer, because what she talks about in here is these kind of kids they'll pause before they act. So these are not your like impulsive kids. Typically in school, these kids are very well behaved because they don't like getting in trouble. So like I know like if like when he was little, if like, and even now, if anyone tells him like that he did something wrong that's not like us, like his parents, he like will just have to like run out of there. Like he can't handle it. He can't handle someone else telling him he's doing something wrong. So in school, a lot of times these kids will follow all the rules because they observe, they see what it's like when other kids get in trouble, and they don't want to feel like that. I forget where I was even going. This is going to be so tangent-y. Sorry ahead of time. The other thing that can happen as a parent is if you really don't understand that your kid is not just being a little jerk to be a little jerk. They really just, their nervous system is just wired differently, and there's certain things they can't handle. Big get-togethers, parties. They might have trouble like literally getting, like my son, we have so much trouble like sometimes getting in the door of a house. Even if it's something he wants to do, you can, it almost manifests a little like anxiety, and you can tell like he wants to do it, but his body won't let him. And you could think as a parent, like, you're being ridiculous, like you're being dramatic, you're being whatever, like just get in the house. that's not going to work with kids like this. And if you're falling into that that way of parenting, of just trying to like push, you do have to push them a little bit, because they are going to need a little bit of a push, but like a gentle push, not like a screaming at them push to like go and do what their body is telling them is like too overwhelming to do. So if you've fallen into that, no judgment. We're all human. These kids they're not easy to raise. I'm not going to lie to you. So I completely understand if you've fallen into that parenting of like, I just don't know what to do anymore. Like I just don't know what to do. And you kind of probably revert back to how you were parented, even though you might not have liked how you were parented at the time, but that's just, it's like imprinted in you, and that's just what you kind of fall back on. I get it. I totally get it. This book will definitely help. I do want to say I have seen some controversy about this, like people that are in some of like the autism groups or other groups like that, saying that this is undiagnosed autism. I think there is some truth to that for some kids. I do think there's going to be a lot of overlap between a highly sensitive child or a highly sensitive person and the diagnosis of autism, and then some of the other like sensory processing disorders. I do believe there is going to be overlap there. However, I also believe some kids are just highly sensitive, and that's not because I don't want my son to have an autism diagnosis. I just because honestly, before I read this book, I was about to go get him tested, or I was about to think about getting him tested for autism. I am also highly sensitive, empathic, whatever person, whatever label you want to put on it. So I've been able to raise him coming from that perspective. However, that has felt like me having to protect him from a lot of people that just don't understand. He doesn't always want to hug people, and that can be off-putting for adults when the kid doesn't want to do that. There's just so many things that a lot of other people will not understand about your child, and you end up having to be that buffer because you are the adult. If your kid, like I've like left parties before because my kid has just broken down in a total meltdown, and I could take it as embarrassing on me, but I'm his buffer. I'm the person that's there to protect him. So that's going to fall on you a lot, and that's something for your own kind of growth journey they're helping you move through a lot of your stuff too. If we want to get a little out there for a second, if you have a kid like this, they're there on purpose. You are their parent on purpose, and it's probably twofold. One, it could be because you're the kind of person they need to bring them through this world so they can learn how to deal with being in a world that can be very overwhelming to them. Or two, they're here because they're here to basically trigger the F out of you so you can process through what you need to process through, which is probably a childhood where you maybe didn't get treated in the way that your body and soul needed to be treated. So this, for some of you, having a highly sensitive child is going to feel very at home because you understand it, even if it's not easy. And for some of you, it's going to be very triggering. And you're going to need a lot of help with figuring out how to navigate the situation because you don't understand it. This will help you understand it a lot. I'm having my husband read it right now. That's why I was bookmarking it. Just having the perception shift that this is who he is and he's not doing it on purpose, and he does experience the world differently than they say that about 15 to 20% of people are highly sensitive. Has been a huge shift already. So I do want to just read you this teeny little thing on the back. And then if you got the information you need already, just go buy the book or rent it or whatever. There are also a lot of Facebook groups that I joined right after reading this for highly sensitive parents of parents of highly sensitive kids. It has been so helpful seeing, I honestly don't comment or post in there, but just seeing the posts so I can be like, whoa, okay, I'm not alone. Because if you have a kid like this, you could feel very alone. Like when we tried soccer when he was 3 because he said he wanted to do it, and we're like, oh, fun, it's our first kid, this will be fun thing to do on the weekend. It seemed as though he was the only child not on the soccer field. He wanted to just watch. And he was fine with that. He wasn't even upset about it. What was upsetting is if a parent was upset at him about not wanting to go on the field. He didn't want to go. It was overwhelming. There were soccer balls everywhere. There were kids running around everywhere. It was not the most structured activity. It was very overwhelming, and he never went on the field. Not once. And you know what? He may have, but right when we were walking up to the soccer field, he tripped on the pavement and scraped his knee. And it was from that second, it was all down from there. That can be all it takes to take a kid like that out. And then every single soccer, he sat on the side, wouldn't put the shirt on, it was too scratchy or something, and sat on the side. We are going to try soccer again. He's going to be 7. He really wants to, so it'll be interesting. But you know what's going to be different is how Dad thinks about this experience for him, because now he understands how he is, and it's very much like if you like it, we're going to play it, and if you don't, well, at least you tried, because if you don't try it, you're never going to know if soccer's your thing. And if it's not your thing, that's also totally fine. He has found out that art is really his thing, but we want to see, okay, is soccer also your thing? Side note tangent. Okay. So sensitive to almost everything, scratchy clothes, funny taste, loud noises, a change in routine. A vivid dreamer, distressed by scary movies, or fearful in new situations. Prone to hurt feelings, upset by criticism, and eager to do things just right. If so, your child may be one of the 15 to 20% of children who are born highly sensitive, deeply reflective, sensitive to the subtle, and easily overwhelmed. These qualities can make for a smart, conscientious, creative children, but may also result in shyness, fussiness, or acting out. Blah, 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 blah. She does say if you worry that he or she may have a disorder such as attention deficit disorder or Asperger's, he or she may simply be highly sensitive. This does not mean they're not also ADD or on the spectrum. That doesn't mean that. However, I think this is a good place to start. Even if you were to read this and have some perspective shifts and understand your kid a little more, and then go on to, okay, I think they're this, but also I feel like I want to pursue testing. Awesome. No matter what, I think this is a great place to start for just seeing, for understanding your kid if you think they're highly sensitive. That's all you really need to know. She does also have an adult, like a highly sensitive person, and I did just buy the highly sensitive person in love. I thought it'd be really interesting, another video, but to see, and maybe I'll have my husband read it too. But yeah, completely recommend this book. Like I said, this has been the most validating book I have ever read as a parent. Even like something so small, and then I'm just going to stop this so I don't talk to you forever, is that my son was getting really overwhelmed at the bus stop. Our bus stop has a lot of kids. The bus has 3 kids to a seat. It's really overwhelming, but I think it was also hard because he really likes the bus. He likes riding the bus. He rode the bus last year, but there were less kids because of COVID. So this year, everyone's taking the bus, and it's so crowded, and it's like his mind wants to ride the bus, but we'll be walking up there, and you can immediately see his body starting to go into like, my stomach hurts. I don't want to go to school. I don't feel good. So what I started doing was driving him to school, and I felt like I was kind of like giving in, but the book literally says, like, if the bus is too overwhelming, drive them to school. It's like, thank you, because like I know what he needs, and that was just such a small thing, but that was so validating for me to see that. And just one last note is their stomach aches are real. So obviously kids can also lie and figure out how to get away with more, whatever. They're always going to be pushing the limits, any kid. But like if you have a highly sensitive kid and it's about to be a transition time, or especially like a weekend back to school or school vacation back to school, and they have a stomach ache or a headache, or like, I swear my kid can make his nose get runny so he can stay home from school. But if that's happening, the actual pain is real. It's just, it's there, it's manifesting as a real thing. So just acknowledging it, that they're not making it up, even if you think they're making it up, and just saying how it will, it will go away. Like he, at least mine, once he goes to school, he's fine. It's that transition period of getting to school that can be really, really hard. Okay, I hope that was helpful. If you have questions, definitely put them below. I know that was a little all over the place, but I cannot recommend this book enough if you think your kid is highly sensitive, easily overwhelmed, if they're like a really bad patient when they're sick, like they can't handle having a stuffy nose, or like certain foods, like my son will literally gag when he tries broccoli. like it's real. It's not them just being little brats. Of course they can still be brats. They're not going to be all angels just because you now know they're a highly sensitive kid. But this is amazing book. Highly recommend. If you buy it, please let me know and comment, come back, comment below, tell me, like, even tell me if you thought it was horrible. I'd love to like keep that conversation going. Okay. See you in the next one. I hope that was helpful.